All right, we are live here with another AvaCloud Builder Spotlight. Couldn't be more excited to have the Blockticity team with us today. Over the last few weeks, we've been spending our Fridays highlighting all of the amazing L1s that are in the Avalanche ecosystem, building and deploying, and really taking the technology to a new level. And that is exactly how I feel about Blockticity, who we've had the pleasure of working with for a couple years now. They have been working so hard in their space within the product that they're building to really change the entire game as far as it comes to certification and authenticity and authenticating different things. So really excited to jump in. I'm Perry. I'm the host here with the AvaCloud team. And I would love to pass it to both Ian and Conor to make some introductions on their end and share a little bit more about Blockticity. So I'll pass it to Conor first.
What's up, Harry? So thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate the opportunity, and we're also thrilled that you're back at Avalanche. We were super excited when you came back into the team. So, hi everybody. My name is Mike Conor. I'm one of the founders and CEO of Blockticity, and we are a authentication platform on Avalanche, where we go after critical documents in the supply chain and make them tamper evident, time-stamped, and immutable. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. I'm Ian, co-founder, also founder, whatever. Been in this silly crypto space for a couple of years, and I was super excited to team up with Mike when he had this problem. We can kind of go into that a little bit, and just excited every day for what we're doing. And then obviously just have had the best experience with the Avalanche team with AvaCloud. We can kind of get into that in a little bit as well. So excited to be here, Perry. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. This is awesome for me, and it's fun. We've spanned a long duration together, so here we are again, still going for it, which is great. But with that being said, I mean, it has been a couple years. Your journey, I'm sure, starts before that. So I would love for our audience to hear a little bit more about, like, how did Blockticity get to where it's at today? What is the background of Blockticity, and maybe a little bit more about your guys' background, and then how that intersects with Avalanche. I'm a little bit biased. I get to be on the front row seat of seeing everything that you guys are doing, and I know there's a lot of people on the AvaLab side that you guys get to interact with, but I think it would be great to tell other people exactly who you guys are and what you're doing and how you got here.
Sure. So let me start with the origin story. So during COVID, we were trying to sell PPE gloves and masks to the U.S. government, and we have a couple of retired federal agents that were our partners. So we would get basically a data room that we would present to the government that would have attestations around 3M masks, 3M gloves, all sorts of different big global manufacturers. And they would manually check those documents for, are they authentic? Are they fake? Are they real? And in all 53 deals we looked at, they found fraudulent documents, which would have meant we passing them to the government would be committing a felony. So we didn't do any deals done, because every data room had at least 2 documents that were fraudulent, which was the most painful but the most powerful experience for us, because it got us thinking, what if we used this wonderful new super popular technology, distributed ledger, to make tamper evident, immutable documents, and basically mint a certificate at the source of origin of where a product is coming from, so that anybody in the supply chain can verify it and compare the paper document in their hand with a digital twin that is tamper evident on blockchain. And that's when Ian and I and 2 of our other partners got together and put together our first mint, which was like ceremoniously, we minted a lab report during a party that Ian was throwing at Art Basel about 4 years ago. And so since then, I think we were around 280 million of real world assets authenticated on chain last year, and we're going to be at just over $1 billion in June, because we've been holding back about 700,000 certificates to get our L1 set up, and we're going to talk about what that's been like today. But Ian, do you want to talk about the experience with Avalanche?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we initially were doing our proof of concept, we minted on ETH mainnet, And it was great. We very quickly. Keep in mind, this is 2021, so it was not cheap. There's no way we're scaling industrial enterprise certificates on ETH mainnet. And so I think we knew that we needed some kind of alternative, but we still believed in the composability of EVM and kind of the benefits of that. And so just through some more mutual friends, we had some conversations with Avalanche, did some testing on C chain, and this idea of maybe an L1's the way to go, right? And we can kind of dive into that a little bit, but it's just kind of a natural progression to see that our idea of this business really didn't have as much legs if we needed to rely on ETH mainnet.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, that would get expensive pretty quick.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure.
So no, one of the things, I guess, to take it just a step back real quick, because I know there's been just so many different interactions with our teams over the last couple of years. It would be really, I'm more interested to know and curious, like, can you talk a little bit about the authentication process, even a little bit more specifically of just like some of those hurdles of taking maybe an industry, obviously in your example with the fraud that you found basically in every single process, that is terrifying in one sense, because there probably wasn't a solution or people that's happening all the time. But more so, like, I know that you guys have worked a lot with the actual certification process of like this old process and modernizing it. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So the world revolves around what's called the Bill of Lading, and there's like anticipation, hopes, and dreams that it will go from paper to electronic over the next 15 years for every product on the planet. The market cap is about $26 trillion of assets that move through the supply chain, physical assets throughout the world. 20% of those documents are unverifiable, aka pretty sure they're fraudulent. So that's really where, when we learned how big that market was, we started thinking about what other industries could we focus on. And because blockchain didn't take off early in the supply chain industry, because it's very scary for an old school Web 2 enterprise architect that works for a Fortune 200 to just put a bunch of their company's IP on chain. So because it didn't take off, we realized it's the best solution for authentication, which is a piece of the puzzle. So the real way to do this is through what's called a conformity assessment. Step one is the track and trace, which there's many software platforms that do that. Step two, authentication. Blockchain is, in our opinion, the best solution to create a tamper-evident, immutable attestation, which is technically your intellectual property, but people steal it when you put it on paper and send it through the supply chain, connects to a shipment. And the third step is going to be oversight, and you always want to operate under a global standard, which we'll talk about later in our chat. And then lastly, validation, which is going to be what is the authority having jurisdiction going to bless this whole process, and trying to take a product from A to B and cross two continents. There's some border patrol somewhere, and if you can get them to adopt and acknowledge that blockchain authentication piece, it's going to change the game for the global supply chain, because now border patrols are going to be able to use third-party technology providers to be more efficient at stopping the products that have stolen or unverifiable documentation. So that's really like a high level of what the market is and the opportunity, and we're very excited about that, especially with being on an L1, we can now issue permissions, so we can protect intellectual property on a certificate, and our client can issue a permission key to somebody in the supply chain, like a border inspector or final customer, that can look in, see proprietary information, and then receive the risk of taking that product into their chain of custody.
That was a lot, and all of it good, which is amazing.
That was just
it's very clear there was, obviously a need, and it's exciting to see that you guys are meeting that need and have found a pathway to do so, and to introduce blockchain technology in that way. I think two kind of questions here on combining, which are, what makes you unique in the space. You guys have kind of leveled on that and shared a little bit. But really diving into like, why did you decide to launch, a Blockticity L1 specifically? And I think that's a loaded question because, again, in the time frame that we've worked together, you've seen a lot of changes. There's been changes on both sides, of the equation here, but also from like the tech stack, going from subnets to L1s. And like, why did that fit? I guess I'd love to hear, and I think people would love to hear more about why a Blockticity L1, and then what does that look like in real life?
So Ian, you want to take that, and then I'll talk about go to market?
Yeah, for sure. So I think there's a few things like why L1 versus a lot of other choices that are out there. So I think one thing is we've got control over the gas and the UX. That's a big thing. Obviously, with minting at scale, we need to be mindful of the fluctuation in the token and do kind of dynamic pricing of our token, and then we could do custom economic incentives. We're looking at some things that we can do with potentially validator nodes and the token. So kind of combining like nodenomics with tokenomics a little bit. And then I also think too, like just the sovereignty, right? I mean, I think it's something where we didn't necessarily want to be fighting for attention on someone else's block space. And so that's, I think it just made a lot of sense for us. And then the economics of it, right? I mean, just as time went on, it became that much more affordable to be able to launch and manage an L1 with the tooling that especially, AvaCloud has. So it's just kind of a no-brainer. We're able to do a lot more with less.
Yeah, you've been amazing partners in that sense too, because it's fun to see a relationship that's gone through that process. As we've worked on the product and iterated and built, it's very much been led by the builders, and our roadmap is certainly impacted by that. I think any company would say, the people that are using it are who help dictate what we're building, and maybe sometimes that isn't the case, but for us, it certainly has been. And so it's been awesome to kind of meet that need, and everything that you're highlighting as far as those customizations. It's one thing to say that they exist. And, I think a lot of people do that wherever they're at, but it's another thing to see it in practice and actually have it meet the need of whatever it is you're building. So that brings us a lot of joy because it means that it's working and we're able to provide a product that helps you guys do what is most important, which is continue building your product and not getting, lagged down by some of the operational processes and things like that. But yeah, would be curious to know your thoughts too, Conor, if you want to like expound on that or share kind of your side of what you're thinking too.
Well, one thing I want to talk about first is one of the other reasons we chose Avalanche was it was the first like high level person on the technical team that we had a conversation that really wanted to talk about security and compliance. And we talked to a bunch of blockchain companies, and they were just more talking about doing events and selling NFTs. So we just had a different focus. So from that first mint to today, we're now a portco with the Blizzard investment team. So we get bi-monthly check-ins with them. They are great. They make intros to us all over the industry. We work with the sales team. We have lead registration deals with Avalanche's sales team ecosystem all over the world, probably 5 continents. We work with the IT team. One of your IT members joined our committee at ASTM to help us write the first blockchain standard ever for ASTM International, which is a huge deal. And we also work very closely with your marketing team, who was instrumental in helping us write that first press release with ASTM when the standard came out, as well as supporting us with the event team when we went and presented. I think we had 2 committees last year in Argentina with Avalanche. So we are working with 5 different departments in the Avalanche ecosystem, and they all support us and they all support each other. So that's really the reason why we're here, and we're so happy that this L1 came out with all the permissions our clients needed, with the security, so we could be HIPAA compliant, federal agency data compliant, and be able to scale knowing that there are no hidden surprise gas fees. So that's just the reason why we're here, and the reason why we're happy to be on this call. Then the second part of, adding on to what Ian just said, the market is really afraid of what they don't understand. And just think of the Web 2 enterprise world out there. So we're not saying give us all your SAP data and put it on chain, don't worry. We're saying you already have exposed data on these attestations or these bill of ladings that you have to put on the products as they go through supply chain. Let us create digital twins of those products and give it to them at a price that they can't say no to. We do not lose on price because of our L1. We can give them a certificate 1-to-1 on sneakers. We can give them a certificate 1 to a pallet for 1,500 pieces of fruit, or we can give them a certificate for 1 40-foot container for soybean biomass or United States Army nuts and bolts. So that scalability allows us to go out and close and get in the game with some very large enterprise clients moving products all over the world. So we're super, we're very blessed for that as well.
Yeah. Wow. It's just awesome to see in practice. So, and just hearing that, I know it's making a difference, not only for the industry, but obviously, cross collaboration and all of that on the AvaLab side is, it's like music to my ears, right? Like everybody showing up on the same team with the same goal and pushing towards that. With your L1, and maybe we can dive in a little bit more on that specifically, because I know that you guys have minted, obviously on your test net, you've demonstrated it. Ian, would you want to maybe share that process and talk about it? And I know that we have kind of a demo, or we can at least show what you have minted, and I can pull that up.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's funny too, Perry, we were talking about just like, what a difference like 6 months, let alone 2 years makes. Just the front end of AvaCloud. I was able to, in a couple minutes, just kind of get that spun up. So I'll just kind of show you. So like we can go to, and this was cool too, right? Once you set it up, there was a couple options from Third Web right away. Like I just deployed this NFT smart contract to just do a testament, right? And then you can kind of see, okay, you've got that deployed. I just felt like it was super intuitive and easy to use. Like it really was, no coding on this side of it. But you still have the capabilities to go in and do, I've added a few other custom smart contracts to do some tests. I can kind of show you, let me just share this tab real quick. You can just kind of see some of the different test mints that I've done. And this is just on our test net via Core Wallet. We're able to just kind of, do this, kind of see how metadata gets displayed. I think it's even built in with its own block explorer. So we can kind of go check and see, hey, how does this show up on the block explorer, things like that. So
this is sweet. And I love this view of like kind of demonstrating it, showing it. Can you talk a little bit about that, like test COA and just like what's on that? I guess maybe what I'm interested in is the blockchain, sure. There's like the physical or the.
Yeah. So this is from a client of ours, Seed Core. They're an organic sugar manufacturer out of the Philippines. And this was a real COA. This was one that we had done already on C-Chain. So I was just kind of taking examples from things we've already minted to just, put on there and see if the metadata is being, displayed the same way that it did on C-Chain, and just kind of, go through it. So some of the things we've got on there, Mike can speak to this a little bit, but you can see that there's, this is specific to the sugar going into the European Union. So they have specific due diligence things that they'll want for any EU country for that sugar to come in to be for sale. And typically that's going into, other manufacturers. So it's not like, a 1 pound bag of sugar that you're getting, to make some cookies. It's going in for, an industrial use, maybe, a large scale. So, so they'll have a lot of things that are from like the FDA of the Philippines to kind of show that they're in good standing as an organic producer. What the geolocation of the farm that this came from. And then I think there's, kind of like the yield that was there, the collection date, production date and delivery date. So those things that are there and the actual, licensees that are associated with that farm in the Philippines. And Mike, I don't know, you've got a little bit more background on, what all goes into that.
Yeah, so, no, you nailed it. So there's basically 7 attestations that you must present to pass the European Union border inspection next year. So we created this custom summary page with those 7 attestations, but then these 7 attestations yield 15 metadata traits about that batch, which is one of 500 pallets of sugar. And so that is really interesting when we can now take that metadata, and then Ian has been doing some awesome things on AI and some machine learning tools that we have to pull in predictability of weather patterns in their supply chain regions for the next 24 months, as well as the global commodity value of sugar, so that they can determine, we give them these supercharged reports as to when and buy and when and hold these pallets of sugar based on, these wonderful insights that we can pull through Python AI integrations and all other things. Now we take that model and we plug that into other products like coffee in Colombia, like medical equipment going from the US to Ukraine, like clothing coming from Bangladesh into the United States. There's so many different use cases for that. So really we're building this tool that will function in different client verticals based on their needs, based on their requirements, and based on their unique metadata attributes.
Yeah, that's so great. And knowing that, if you're supported in the background on the Web3 blockchain side with your L1 infrastructure, you guys going out and being able to do the legwork of actually presenting this, getting people on board and sharing it. It's so funny to me too, because it seems so simple. Like, we have this need, we can go meet it, whatever. But being able to like build a fully functional system to do that isn't always so simple. So it's great to hear that, you guys are out there, you're getting not only just, it's not just fake data. It's actually the opposite of that. It's like proving if there is things that are fake, and therefore in turn, like verifying and showing them, there's a pathway here to advance both the tech stack, but also make it more official, which I think is really great. Blockticity, like roadmap wise, can you share some highlights or high level, like what are, where have you been and what were you working on, and like how has that changed? And then like moving forward, what is kind of the future look like for Blockticity as you guys continue to grow?
So Ian, you want to talk about the tech roadmap, and then I'll talk about the go-to-market roadmap?
Yeah, no, for sure. So we're obviously, we're still on testnet. We should be pretty comfortable to deploy to mainnet. I would think first week of May. So within the next week or two, we'll deploy mainnet. But yeah, we've got some automation things that we're testing right now. We've got a couple 100,000 certs that we need to mint. So we just need to make sure that some of our batch processes are working correctly. We're proud members of the NVIDIA Inception program. So we've been able to kind of utilize some of the microservices that they've got for AI and ML. So ideally, we'd have a couple different uses there. One is, using that microservice for kind of a QA for our own minting to make sure, like, hey, what this is going to mint, is this matching up with what the client submitted, and kind of having that first pass of QA. But then also on the final product, to actually like run it through some of those public databases. So say, for example, with the Philippine sugar, taking the like the canopy visual of that geolocation, and does that make sense? Is there actually a farm there, right? So a lot of those things where we kind of can introduce some tech to keep folks honest, but I also think just provide more insights, right? Like Conor had mentioned, even pulling commodity data, right? A lot of the things that we're dealing with, their certificates linked to a physical commodity that's traded. It's a publicly traded commodity. And so those all have price feeds, those all have data feeds, and we're getting, firsthand data. So it's kind of exciting to see what we could model on that, and then Mike, if you wanted to go in a little bit, I know we're kind of at the top of our time, but just go in a little bit about, kind of our roadmap and what's going to be happening in the next 3 months.
So roadmap between now. So another big shout out. So Blizzard, Vera over at Blizzard, who's like our liaison to the funding team, connected us with Max over at Plug and Play, who has got us into their accelerator program. We're graduating in June, so that's why we want to have our 750,000 COAs on our L1 by then, to show the progress we've had through the accelerator program. Plug and Play has connected us with deals all over the world. So that's part of, we're very thankful, and they've been a wonderful team. They've got offices everywhere. So when we get a lead in another, like Philippines, we cross collaborate with Plug and Play, and then it figures out that they know somebody there too. So we're hitting them from both sides to get into pilots and doing discoveries. We work with the U.S. Department of Commerce and the U.S. embassies. So I think we're in 8 countries right now through that program. We're presenting our solution in Colombia and Bogota May 6th with about 150 invited guests by the embassy to meet Blockticity, which we're very thankful about there. We have a license model. So we've licensed our tech to partners on the ground in Colombia, Philippines, Ukraine. We're doing a deal in Saudi Arabia, and then we've got 4 or 5 other countries in South America. So we are inundated. We have more accounts than we know what to do with, but now we're going to have this slick tool that allows us to hit the scalability button. So once we go in May and we're game on, we're going to spend the next 8 months just onboarding a number of different clients in different parts of the world. So we're really excited and just been waiting for this L1. So it's perfect timing.
Yeah, that's very, very exciting as far as roadmap goes. And it sounds like millions of mints are coming your way. So
absolutely.
Yeah, get ready. That's super exciting. So, well, gentlemen, I just want to thank you so much for taking time to, meet today, chat about all things Blockticity, AvaCloud. I want to make sure that people know where they can find you. So be sure to, you can follow AvaCloud, but also make sure that you're following Blockticity on X. This is their handle there. Is there some other places that people can find you and stay up to date too?
I think just our website, blockticity.io. That's it.
Yeah, blockticity.io, and we're most active on X. So we're on other social handles, but I think we're most active on X, and then our own website will be rehashed here in a little bit. So we're excited to share that. So maybe we can come back when we're live on mainnet.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to. We'll keep the pedal down because it sounds like we got to match what you guys are doing. As far as your product goes, you're keeping us on our toes in a good way. So yeah, be sure to follow them there. Stay tuned for more. Guys, thanks again so much for taking time today to chat a little bit more about what you're doing. And we will be sure to let people know as you guys continue to progress, because it sounds like only good things coming to you both and your team. So thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Perry, and thanks to
Thank you so much,
Lab for a great experience.
Awesome.
All right, take care.